In the annals of early Islamic history, certain figures loom large, often shrouded in narratives that blend fact with legend. Among them is Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, an Umayyad commander whose name evokes both fear and grudging respect. He is frequently portrayed as a ruthless enforcer, a man of iron will and unyielding ambition. A compelling story persists about Al-Hajjaj, that despite his brutal reputation, he once intervened to protect the sacred Kaaba in Mecca. This alleged act of mercy, seemingly against his very nature, suggests a moment of unexpected benevolence from a figure otherwise known for his severity. The narrative paints him as the enemy general who, against all expectations, saved Mecca. However, a closer examination of historical sources reveals a far more complex and, ultimately, less benevolent reality. The popular portrayal of Al-Hajjaj as a savior of Mecca is a significant oversimplification. It obscures the true motivations and events surrounding his actions. The historical record, when scrutinized, challenges this romanticized version of events. It compels us to look beyond the compelling narrative and delve into the nuanced truths of the past. The reality of Al-Hajjaj's involvement with Mecca is not one of spontaneous mercy, but of calculated political strategy. The year 692 CE marked a pivotal and brutal chapter in early Islamic history. Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, acting on behalf of the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik, led a formidable army to besiege the holy city of Mecca. His objective was clear and uncompromising: to crush the rebellion led by Abd Allah ibn al-Zubayr. Ibn al-Zubayr had declared himself caliph, challenging Umayyad authority from the heart of Islam. This defiance could not be tolerated by the Damascus-based Umayyad dynasty. The siege of Mecca was not merely a military campaign, it was a decisive struggle for the very soul and leadership of the nascent Islamic empire. The conflict was characterized by its relentless intensity and brutality. Al-Hajjaj's forces encircled Mecca, cutting off supplies and relentlessly attacking the city. The siege engines employed by the Umayyad army were instruments of destruction, designed to break down defenses and demoralize the besieged. Tragically, the sacred Kaaba, the holiest site in Islam, became a central target in this devastating conflict. It suffered significant damage during the prolonged assault. Historical accounts confirm that siege engines, specifically catapults, were used to hurl projectiles into the city. These projectiles did not spare the Kaaba. Its structure was hit and weakened, a stark testament to the ferocity of the siege. The damage inflicted upon the Kaaba was a consequence of the Umayyad army's unwavering determination to conquer Mecca and eliminate the rebellion at any cost. Crucially, there is no historical evidence to support the claim that Al-Hajjaj halted the siege due to any humanitarian concerns. No accounts describe him pausing the assault out of reverence for the Kaaba or its sanctity. The narrative of a sudden intervention to protect the holy site during the siege lacks factual basis. Furthermore, there is no mention of an earthquake or any other natural disaster prompting a cessation of hostilities. Al-Hajjaj's primary objective remained steadfast: to conquer Mecca and decisively end Ibn al-Zubayr's challenge to Umayyad rule. The military imperative superseded all other considerations during the siege itself. After months of relentless pressure, the city of Mecca finally fell to Al-Hajjaj's forces. Abd Allah ibn al-Zubayr, the defiant anti-caliph, was killed in the final moments of the siege. His death marked the end of a protracted civil war and the consolidation of Umayyad power across the Islamic lands. In the aftermath of the conquest, Al-Hajjaj oversaw the reconstruction of the damaged Kaaba. This act is often cited as evidence of his supposed benevolence or respect for the holy site. However, it is vital to understand that this reconstruction was not a spontaneous act of mercy performed during the siege. Instead, it was a calculated move undertaken after the city had been secured and the rebellion crushed. The decision to rebuild the Kaaba was not driven by a sudden change of heart from Al-Hajjaj. It was a directive from the Umayyad Caliphate itself, a strategic imperative for the newly re-established authority. The reconstruction of the Kaaba was a profoundly politically motivated move. The Umayyad Caliphate understood the immense symbolic importance of the Kaaba to the Muslim world. Allowing it to remain in a state of disrepair would have been a severe blow to their legitimacy and authority. By restoring the Kaaba, the Umayyads aimed to consolidate their control over the holy cities and, by extension, the entire Islamic community. It was a powerful statement of their renewed sovereignty and their commitment to the religious institutions of Islam. This act was intended to legitimize their rule in the eyes of the Muslim populace. The restoration also aimed to return the Kaaba to a state that aligned with the Umayyad vision of Islam. Ibn al-Zubayr had made certain architectural changes to the Kaaba, based on what he believed to be the original plan of the Prophet Abraham. The Umayyads, upon taking control, reverted these changes. They restored the Kaaba to the dimensions and form it had taken during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, as understood by their scholars. This was not merely an architectural decision, it was a theological and political statement. It underscored their authority to define and uphold the correct practice and symbols of Islam. The popular narrative that Al-Hajjaj saved Mecca is a significant oversimplification of a complex historical event. It distorts the motivations behind his actions and misrepresents the nature of the siege itself. This narrative often implies a humanitarian intervention during the conflict, which is historically unfounded. Al-Hajjaj's actions, while ultimately ensuring the Kaaba's physical survival and restoration, were not born of altruism or a sudden moment of compassion. His primary role was that of a military commander tasked with suppressing a rebellion. His methods were ruthless, and his focus was on victory. The true motivations behind the Kaaba's reconstruction were deeply rooted in political and strategic considerations. The Umayyad Caliphate needed to demonstrate its piety and its capacity to protect Islam's holiest sites. This was essential for solidifying Umayyad power and gaining acceptance from a populace that had witnessed a brutal civil war. To allow the Kaaba to remain damaged would have been a political disaster for the Umayyads. It would have undermined their claims to legitimate leadership and fueled further dissent. Therefore, the reconstruction was a necessary act of statecraft, not a spontaneous act of mercy. It was about projecting strength and religious legitimacy. The narrative of Al-Hajjaj saving Mecca, therefore, serves to soften the image of a controversial figure. It attempts to inject a moment of unexpected virtue into a life largely defined by severity and political expediency. However, historical analysis demands a more rigorous examination of the evidence. We must distinguish between the outcome of an action and the motivation behind it. While the Kaaba was indeed rebuilt under Umayyad authority, attributing this to Al-Hajjaj's personal benevolence during the siege itself is a misreading of history. His role was that of a conqueror, and his subsequent actions were those of a consolidator of power. This critical analysis of Al-Hajjaj and the siege of Mecca highlights the profound complexities inherent in historical narratives. It serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of scrutinizing popular stories and challenging simplistic portrayals of historical figures. History is rarely as straightforward as our myths suggest. Understanding this episode emphasizes the necessity of critical analysis when engaging with the past. We must look beyond surface-level accounts and delve into primary sources, considering the political, social, and religious contexts of the time. This approach allows for a more nuanced and accurate understanding of historical events. It also urges us to understand the motivations of historical figures within their specific contexts. Al-Hajjaj was a product of his time, operating within a political system that demanded absolute loyalty and ruthless efficiency. Judging him solely by modern ethical standards, or through romanticized lenses, obscures the realities of his era. The nature of history itself is often shaped by political agendas, both contemporary and retrospective. The roles of heroes and villains are rarely clear-cut. Individuals often embody a spectrum of traits and motivations. Al-Hajjaj is a prime example of a figure whose legacy is fiercely debated and reinterpreted across generations. Despite being a site of intense conflict and political maneuvering, the enduring importance of Mecca is underscored by this historical episode. Its sanctity and symbolic power were such that even its conquerors felt compelled to restore and protect it, albeit for their own strategic reasons. The Kaaba remained, and remains, the spiritual heart of Islam. However, this enduring significance does not necessitate attributing a savior role to its conqueror in a direct, benevolent sense during the siege. The Kaaba survived not because Al-Hajjaj suddenly developed a conscience mid-battle, but because its preservation was a political necessity for the victorious Umayyad Caliphate. Ultimately, the story of Al-Hajjaj and Mecca is a testament to the intricate interplay of power, religion, and human ambition. It teaches us that history is a tapestry woven with many threads, and only through careful, critical examination can we begin to discern its true patterns.